They tried to silence her. They tried to erase her voice, her truth, her power. They called her names, painted her in the most unflattering lights, and distorted every word that left her mouth. But Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, didn't fold. She didn't shrink. She didn't run. Instead, she picked up the microphone and did what only the bravest women do. She told the truth, not just for herself, but for every woman who's been told she was too loud, too much, too ambitious, too emotional. Meghan turned her pain into purpose and created something that goes far beyond sound bites and headlines. She created Confessions of a Female Founder, a platform that doesn't just tell stories, it breathes life into them. And in the second episode of her new podcast, Meghan sat down with someone whose journey is just as powerful and inspiring, Reshma Saujani, the Indian-American founder of Girls Who Code and CEO of Moms First. A powerhouse in her own right, Reshma brought all the honesty, fire and intelligence you'd expect from a woman who's dedicated her life to uplifting girls and fighting for working mothers. But what made this conversation so special wasn't just the career talk, it was the emotional truth behind the success. It was two women, two mothers, two survivors sitting down and saying, here's what we've lived through and here's what we've learned. One of the first things Meghan does is ask Reshma about her childhood. Growing up as the daughter of Indian immigrants in America and the desperate effort to fit in, a theme so many first-generation children know all too well. Meghan doesn't just ask out of politeness. She asks because she genuinely cares, because she listens, because she sees the beauty in stories that the mainstream is too quick to dismiss. And that's what makes her podcast so transformative. She doesn't separate the personal from the professional because she knows, as every woman knows, that the two are intertwined in ways men are never expected to explain. And then came a moment so tender, so real, that it stopped me in my tracks. Meghan, in her calm, empathetic way, turned the conversation toward the topic of miscarriage. She said, I've spoken about the miscarriage that we experienced. And her voice didn't shake, but it carried the weight of so many mothers who've suffered in silence. She continued, when you have to learn to detach from the thing that you have so much promise and hope for, and to be okay at a certain point to let something go that you plan to love for a long time. That's not just a line, that's not something you say for effect, that's the heart of a woman who's grieved. And rather than hiding it, rather than pretending she's untouched by loss, Meghan laid it out on the table, not for sympathy, but for solidarity. And Reshma heard it. She felt it. She said Meghan's words were like reading her own diary, because that's what real connection does. It makes you feel seen, but of course the critics will never acknowledge that. They'll twist her words. They'll mock her for being too emotional. They'll say she's making it about herself, as if a woman sharing her lived truth somehow takes away from the conversation. Let's be honest. If a man had said those exact same words, he'd be hailed as brave, vulnerable, and evolved. But when Meghan does it, they call her performative. They call her self-absorbed. The double standard is nauseating, and still, she shows up. When the conversation turned to motherhood, Meghan lit up. She talked about how much she loves being a mum, and not in a vague, cliché way. She talked about how hard it is to step into another room, to take even a moment for herself, because her children are constantly on her mind. Let me just scroll through pictures of them endlessly on my phone, she said, laughing. Then my husband's like, my love, can you just give yourself a minute? Why don't you go work out? Why don't you go take a bath? And I'm like, I know, but I just want to cuddle. That's real. That's the kind of intimate honesty that so many mothers feel but are rarely allowed to admit. Meghan isn't trying to play perfect. She's not performing for applause. She's being present. She's being human. And what a radical thing that is for a woman like her, a woman who's been so relentlessly dehumanized, to show her humanity so openly. She even spoke about how the pandemic blurred the lines between parenting and working, how that overwhelming convergence changed the way so many of us see home life and labour. And again, she said it not as a celebrity detached from reality, but as a woman living it, breathing it, trying to balance it all like the rest of us. But let's not forget, this isn't the first time Meghan and Reshma have connected. They first met back in 2018 when Meghan was pregnant with Archie and she invited Reshma to Kensington Palace. That's the part people conveniently ignore when they try to paint Meghan as superficial or opportunistic. She's been building these relationships, supporting these women, and doing this work for years. Long before the tabloids turned her life into a circus, long before the royal firm tried to muzzle her. And through all the noise, she's still doing what she's always done. lifting up the voices that deserve to be heard, building platforms, not pedestals, asking thoughtful questions, not scripted ones, and showing again and again that true leadership means listening. But of course, the trolls don't care about that. They're too busy spinning their tired narratives, calling her a diva, accusing her of using her platform for sympathy. But here's the truth. They're not mad because she's failing. They're mad because she's thriving, because in spite of every attempt to tear her down, Meghan just keeps rising, she keeps speaking, she keeps connecting, and she's doing it in a way that no royal before her ever has. So if you're listening to this and you've ever been told you were too much, too emotional, too different, take this as your reminder. Your story matters, your pain, your joy, your love, your losses, they all matter, and don't let anyone silence you. Meghan Markle isn't just creating a podcast, she's building a movement. She's making space for women to speak their truth. And in a world that tries so hard to silence women, that is revolutionary. Duchess Meghan spoke to Reshma Saujani for the second episode of Co-Phone of the Things I Loved Most About the Duchess of Sussex's Archetypes podcast was her somewhat inadvertent focus on Asian American excellence. Meghan loves Indian Americans, Korean Americans, Chinese Americans, and more. It's amazing, and she's a real ally to the Asian American community. Well, for the second episode of Meghan's Confessions of a Female Founder podcast, she interviewed Indian American female founder Reshma Saujani. Saujani is the founder of Girls Who Code and CEO of Mums First. At the start of the pod, Meghan directly asks Reshma about being the daughter of Indian immigrants and how hard she tried to fit in throughout her childhood. It's so interesting, and this is a great episode. Meghan and Reshma talk about Reshma's love of politics, American law, Reshma's come-up, Reshma's many failures and life lessons. They also talk about how they both had miscarriages. Meghan Markle is reflecting on the heartbreaking miscarriage she suffered nearly 5 years ago. The Duchess of Sussex commented on her experience on the April 15th episode of her Confessions of a Female Founder podcast, where she was joined by Reshma Saujani, the founder of Girls Who Code and CEO of Mums First. Having listened to Saujani, 49, express the challenges she faced while working on Girls Who Code, Meghan, 43, shifted the conversation toward the difficulties of continuing to perform while privately navigating the pain of a miscarriage. I'll bring this up if you're comfortable talking about it, because I know you've spoken publicly about, as you're doing Girls Who Code, all the interpersonal things that are happening for you at that time and the miscarriages that you've experienced, Meghan said. I've spoken about the miscarriage that we experienced. I think in some parallel way, when you have to learn to detach from the thing that you have so much promise and hope for, and to be able to be okay at a certain point to let something go that you plan to love for a long time. On the podcast, Saujani described Meghan's insight on her miscarriage in Meghan's NYT column as really insightful, and as if the Duchess of Sussex was reading my diaries. I don't think anyone's seen it that way, like said it that way for me, said Saujani. She then shared that she handed her business over to her team for a chance just to breathe after a path of serial miscarriages. When Saujani later brought up not having to choose between being a girl boss and a trad wife, the pair bonded over their love of being mothers. I love being a mum. Oh my gosh, I love being a mum so much. It's my favourite thing, Meghan said. She added that it can be difficult to step into another room to take a break from her children as they're constantly on her mind. Let me just scroll through pictures of them endlessly on my phone, Meghan said. Then my husband's like, "My love, can you just give yourself a minute? Why don't you go work out? Why don't you go take a bath?" I'm like, "I know, but I just want to cuddle," she continued. It's the parenting paradigm where it is so full on, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But I think what's really key about what you said, and the pandemic may have been the thing that shifted this when working from home and parenting from home, where they are completely converged, it can feel incredibly overwhelming. While this isn't in people's coverage, Meghan and Reshma also talk about how this isn't the first time they've spoken. They met in 2018 at Kensington Palace when Meghan was pregnant with Archie. Anyway, I love how Reshma is very talkative, and Meghan seems curious about Reshma's life beyond the female founder of it all. I've seen a lot of dumb criticism about Meghan's interviews for focusing on the personal as well as the professional, but isn't the larger point of COEF that women's professional lives are tied to their personal lives in ways that men's careers simply aren't? If this resonated with you, and I know it did, then don't just sit with it, do something. Hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss a single episode. Drop a comment, let's talk about it. Let's uplift Meghan and every woman who refuses to be silenced. And if you believe in what we're doing here on Royal Sussex Squad, if you want to support this message and this mission, go ahead and click that super thanks button. Your support helps keep this platform going strong and loud. We're not just here to clap back. We're here to build up. To celebrate truth, love, and the people who refuse to bow to hate. Thanks for riding with me. I'll see you next time. And always remember, they may try to dim the light, but they can never kill the fire. Keep it burning.